So, like in Mallrats, are you going to be a central, like, main character like you were before?
I'm the lead. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to
and
know.
I talked to Kevin about. I was curious myself, especially whenever I found out the name was Mallrats.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, is this movie even about us anymore?
Yeah.
You know, I did because I know that we have children in this one.
Okay, that's what I'm assuming.
And so
yeah.
I wasn't sure who the movie was about exactly. But I was with Kevin a couple weeks ago in Kentucky, and he said that my stuff with Jason Lee is his favorite stuff in the new script. So I'm looking forward to it. I haven't even read it yet, but I heard
Absolutely
it's insane.
hilarious. Dude, I'm excited then. Cool.
It'll be
Awesome.
a lot of fun. Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Like working with Kevin Smith, was it like sticking to the script exactly, or did you get to improv any? How was it?
No, it's his writing's very specific.
Yeah.
Not only did you have to stick to the script, but then you had to say it 10 times faster than you would ever speak as a human, unless you're on crack. You know, and it's funny because back in the day, it was 20 years ago, and so I back then thought I knew everything, and had been on some award-winning television shows and stuff like that, and had worked with very specific directors that had, a very film-like approach to directing. And whenever we got on the set for Mallrats, Kevin had a stopwatch, and he was always like, "Yeah, you got to do it faster. No, you got to do it faster." And I was like, "This is not acting. What are you doing?" And I really was kind of cocky about it, going, "You don't know what you're doing." And then, here 20 years later, who looks like the idiot, right? So, lesson number one: just trust your director. Whether they're lunatics or not, there's usually a method to their madness. Thank you. What's up, brother?
Hey, Jeremy. Nice to see you again. When you worked on Mallrats, and then after it had ended, and then you went doing on other projects, did you look back and see that? Did you have the most fun doing Mallrats when you started out?
We did have a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I probably had the most fun. But we shot the movie in a real mall, in an active mall, and so we only got to shoot an off hours. So we shot from 8 o'clock at night till 8 in the morning for the entire movie, pretty much, especially anything that had to do with the mall. And so, not only had we rehearsed all of the scenes into the ground, so we didn't really find them that funny anymore, but we were doing it at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and so it was really hard to be funny at 5 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, the material stands alone, and we were able to make it work. Kevin really did know what he was doing. At the time, it seemed like we were kind of pissing in the wind a little bit. We were like, this isn't even going to be funny, because we just had rehearsed it so many times, and we were shooting at such weird hours. But the funny thing is that we would be, the end of our day would be as everybody else was starting their day, and so we would be. I can't imagine the people that were staying in the hotel with us. They must have thought we were absolutely out of our minds, because we'd be drinking at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd have the bar, made sure the bar was open for everybody like at 9 a.m. And everybody was getting crocked and smoking weed and running around the hotel like chickens with their heads cut off, while everybody else was just getting out of bed, And so, we must have seemed like a pretty crazy ragtag group of people. We had a lot of fun, though. Don't get me wrong. It was just a lot of night shoots, so we didn't get a lot of sleep.
Right, because when you look at it as we're looking at the entire mall and seeing every scene that you filmed in, you think that you did the entire mall, and it was like a big production, and with the host of all the different actors and actresses that you got in that are actually well known in other stuff, and the fact that you got Stan Lee to come on, which it seemed like he was the first time to come on to an actual movie as a cameo until he started getting into the Marvel movies.
What's your question? I'm sorry, brother.
So, I mean, like, I'm saying it being pretty cool to get Stan Lee on there. Was that hard to do, to get him to come on to cameo?
Lee?
Yeah.
Kevin got him there. I don't know. It wasn't hard for me. I didn't even know who Stan Lee was when he showed up. So whenever I actually, in the movie, when TS is like, who's Stan Lee? I literally was the same way. I had no idea. Of course, whenever I found out who he was, I was very excited. That was cool. And then when he turned out to be so cool, I mean, he was the nicest person to me, and he was the kindest person to me afterwards.
Right.
He told me that I was his favorite character in the movie.
Really?
Which was pretty cool, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
That was pretty fun. Thank you, brother.
Yes, my question is, how is it working with Jason Mewes, and if Jay and Silent Bob will be making another appearance in this movie, Mallrats?
Of course, Jay and Silent Bob will absolutely be there. Yeah, I couldn't imagine doing it without those guys.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you, I can't really give away details, but I can tell you there's gonna be some really outrageous stuff. I mean, really funny, like outrageous, but like big budget, like expensive, crazy. The scope of this one is it's far greater than the original. It's so yeah, it's gonna be a trip.
And my first question was, how is it working with Jason Mewes?
Oh, Jason Mewes he's always fantastic. I mean, the guy's he's just a stand-up guy. Really, really, really nice to everybody. He's never really, from what I can tell, allowed the business to get to him too much. You know, he started off a partier and just kept partying. Yeah.
It seems like him a lot.
He's a nice. I'll tell you, he's one of the nicest people in the whole group, for sure. Very, very genuine. He's out of his mind, but he picked the right career for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Most everybody has seen Kevin Smith on screen, how he is, whether it's comic book man or whatever. But how is he different to work with as a director than any other director you've worked for before?
Well, as I said before, I've never had a director use a stopwatch with us before and tell us to say the stuff faster. It's usually slow down, take your time, make this more real. Like, you know, acting is reacting type of thing. You know, so it's just a different approach. When he writes the scenes, has a very specific idea of the pace of it and the cadence and all of that. And so I found myself often asking him, you know, just sort of play the scene out for me, because all of the jokes are very specifically timed, because some of them are very tongue-in-cheek, kind of, you know, and so you don't want this like big ba-dum boom moment, you know. It's really sort of some of the jokes are hard to catch, you know. But so I relied on him a lot to just guide me through every scene to say, okay, look, what's the intention of the scene, what's the pace, and how did you see this? Because I wanted to make sure that I gave him exactly what he wanted, because it was all very specific. There wasn't a whole lot of room for like improv or winging it. You know, you really had to be on the ball.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We rehearsed every scene in the movie for 2 weeks straight. I mean, you know, by the time we actually did them, we could have done them in our sleep. Hey, brother.
So, what is your advice to aspiring actors who are trying to make a name for themselves?
Don't quit your day job. First of all, get into acting classes, get on sets. In Louisiana, I live in Biloxi because I live near New Orleans, because the business is here. It's in Louisiana and Texas and the South. Get on movie sets as an extra to start off with, if you know, to start getting familiar with it, because it might not be something that you want to do. It's extremely boring. You know, what we do is really 99% waiting around to work, you know? And so if you're somebody that's fidgety and you don't have a lot of patience, or self-respect, you probably shouldn't do it. No, but stick with it, man. You just acting classes, try to get on movie sets, and figure out if it's something that you really want to do, but stick with it.
And I just want to interject before the next question. Speaking of acting classes, you actually host one in.
Yeah.
So I want you to pimp your acting class and maybe give out some of the advice that you give to everybody that comes in and sees you.
Right. Well, the first thing is don't quit your day job. Seriously, have a job. Do something else. Don't rely on it. Don't move to Los Angeles either for whatever you do. Don't go to Los Angeles. The business isn't there anymore. You know, it just isn't.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well.
Particularly comparing to, you know, Mallrats was what, 20 years ago. There wasn't an abundance of reality TV and social media just blaring at you. Does the audience seem different today compared to then? Is it more of a challenge to be more creative and capture your audience compared to back then?
I have to feel, I think it's going to be the opposite, to tell you the truth. It seems like today's audience, all you guys are so much more open-minded, and because word can spread because of social media, people have a way of finding out about things through the gossip mill or whatever it is, you know, a lot easier. Whenever Mallrats first came out, nobody went to see it because people really didn't have a forum to like commune and talk about it and get the jokes and everything. It really took people being at home with their beers and bongs to really start understanding the value of the movie, you know? I think the fact that, you know, when people see something today that they like or they think is funny, they put it out there and people, it's almost like free advertising, you know?
Yeah.
And today's market just seems to be a lot hipper, cooler, more with it, you know? I see a lot of, I'm shocked whenever younger people know the movie and know who I am, because it was 20 years ago, and I was something in the 90s, but you know, so it's a good group of upcoming kids that try to. I think they seem to be pretty well informed. It's pretty impressive, actually.
All right.
Thank you. It was a good question, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
As an aspiring cinematographer, I have come to realize that a movie is no good without a good crew. And it's helped me discover my secret love for films, whether it be bad or good. You know, each one's gonna have a cult following. I just want to be sure that you thanked your crew and cameramen and directors properly before you kept going on.
I can't even understand a word you're saying. What was that?
Just checking that you made sure that you gave the love to all the crew members.
Shoot, I give more love to crew members than I do actors. Actors are a bunch of dipshits, if you ask me. Usually, those are the people I hang out with. Those are my people. I'm also a director and filmmaker, and that's pretty much what I prefer to do. But I think that, you know, if I don't know if you're asking a question or if you're telling me something, but if you're asking me something, I would say if you want to get a crew to work for you and you want to show them that you appreciate what they're doing, especially on lower budget things, feed them well. That's all you got to do, feed them well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how
Did
you
I just
doing?
get scolded?
I'm not really sure if it looked that way.
Was that Mom? Is that Kevin Smith's mom? I'm kidding. What's up, brother?
I'm a scenic artist in the business here, and I was just going to ask you, how's it different working in California versus working in the South, specifically like New Orleans or Baton Rouge, as far as the atmosphere and,
Right.
you know?
I think generally people in the South still appreciate the business a lot more and tend to enjoy their jobs a lot more. I think out in California, what I would see is the people out there that are sort of like, you know, career filmmakers, and they're all in their unions, and they all are very sort of comfortable with doing their job and only their job specifically. And if they're asked to lift a finger to do anything else, they kind of tell you to go jump off a cliff. I think down here you get more team players, people that are just willing to jump in and do whatever they have to do to make the project the best project it can be, and I think that's the way that it should be. You know, I think that it's like a football team, you know, you're all in it to win it, and whatever you got to do to make it work, make it work. And I see that in the South, I've felt like the crews just appreciate being on a movie set and not digging ditches and roofing houses and stuff, you know? I mean, all of us who thought we were going to be making movies for a living, really, you know what I mean? And so if you can not be in Hollywood and then all of a sudden do something that you've maybe always dreamt about doing, but being in movies or working on movie sets, it's a lot deeper level of appreciation down here, I think, for it.
Right. Yeah,
And
well, I just
great
want to say
crews.
on behalf of all of us that work in the industry here, we appreciate you guys, you know, and all the work that you've given us for the last 10 years.
Oh, thank you, man. I love
Thank you.
the state of Louisiana. I love being here, and we're gonna hopefully just keep them coming. We got to keep the incentives making sense here, right? We got to get on the film commission here and make sure they don't screw it up for everybody. We're gonna start sending all the business to Mississippi. You don't want to do that.
Well, I guess it's back to me doing my job.
All right.
You know, with the 20th anniversary of Mallrats and you getting ready to do Mallrats 2, what are you going to do to prepare to try to get in the headspace of a character you played 2 decades ago?
I think that, you know, I'm almost 43 now, and I'm a father, and I think in the movie we're all parents now, and so I think I'm probably gonna just be able to just pull from life a little bit, you know. It's interesting to me because everybody that has signed back on, which is pretty much everybody, they all relatively still look the same, maybe even better. A lot of them look better, so it's going to be kind of weird. You know, it's almost like going back in time a little bit, but.
You know, aside from Mallrats 2, which we'll start filming sometime, I assume, in the future.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in October, but I don't think that's happening.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully.
What else do you have on the docket? I know you act, you direct, you do all sorts of stuff. What else?
Well, I made a movie called The Devil's Dozen. You can get on Amazon or iTunes. Please go check it out. That I wrote and directed. And I'm a paid screenwriter. I've written 5 scripts this year already. My brain's fried.
Damn.
And I'm creating a television series down in Biloxi called Biloxi.
Clever title.
Yeah, it's a real stretch. I'm getting ready to go to California to shoot a movie called Cross and possibly to Australia.
Nice.
So we'll see.
Anybody else got any questions? Don't be scared. Step on over to the mic.
What's going on, man? I've seen you from Party of 5.
I was around then, yeah.
Yeah, man, old school. I gotta know, Mallrats 2, are we gonna see Jay and Silent Bob?
Of course, absolutely.
Oh, they signed on?
Silent Bob makes the movies, you know that, right?
That was my joke, I know.
Yeah, they'll be there.
All right, man, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Don't forget to give us a who dat.
Who dat? So you guys watched Party of 5 too, huh? That was a good show. They're talking about Netflix is possibly bringing it back for new episodes. So
what?
Yeah. You guys write Netflix. Tell them bring the show back. Do it. Tell them to do it. That's a good show.
Love Mallrats, but I want to change the subject a little bit. I was turning over to watch the news the other night, and I caught the tail end of a show called Celebrity Wife Swap.
Yeah.
I would love to hear about your experience on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was crazy. It was wild. My wife and I swapped with these billionaires. I don't know if anybody if you've seen the documentary The Queen of Versailles, the Siegels, Jackie and David Siegel. It was a fun experience. I wouldn't trade my life for theirs. I'll tell you that. Their life is absolutely hectic, and I'm really a family man and really about my children. And I think that might get lost in the shuffle of their craziness a little bit. But they had a tragedy. We got really close with with their oldest daughter, Victoria, and a couple days after the show aired, she died of a drug overdose. And so I think that brought them back down to reality a lot. And it's been interesting because they have really, really started to focus on their family and gotten closer as a family because of it. We're all really good friends. We became really good friends with them. But it was definitely one of those things that, I learned through the process that if I wouldn't want to be a billionaire if it meant that I didn't get to be close to my family, and had to focus too much on work and keeping stuff alive like that.
Like I said, I just caught the tail end. I didn't even get to see the whole episode. I was kind of mad after I found
It's
out
good.
she
You
was on
should
it.
watch it. It's really good. My wife's great in it.
Wait, so
America
you
fell in love with.
enjoyed your interaction with a reality show? Or
Yeah.
That's what I was curious about.
Yeah, it was okay. It was weird. You got to understand that stuff's produced, so a lot of it's massaged in a specific direction sometimes, but not everything what you see is what you get all the time in that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we tried to stay as true to ourselves as possible.
At least you made a friend.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
Are there any roles that you turned down over the years that you're like, shit, what was I thinking? I could have been in Pulp Fiction or something like that.
Only one that I can think of really, and that's the movie that my brother did called Out Cold, a snowboarding silly fun movie. They offered me that movie. It was called 10-1 at the time because the ratio of men to women in Alaska is 10-1. And it was probably the worst script I'd ever read in my entire life. And so it was really easy to turn it down. I was just like, this is absolute garbage. But I had no idea that the people that they were getting involved with, all of the comedians and all of the writers and the people like that were willing to like, go up there and basically just change everything and make it actually funny. And so when it came out, I was like, this isn't the movie I turned down. But the funny part was that I turned it down. I was already doing a job in Canada that was paying more anyway, and so I didn't really have a hard time turning it down. But then my brother calls me that evening, like excited. He's like, I got a job. I was like, really? What is it? And he's like, yeah, this is a snowboarding movie, 10 to 1. I was like, congrats. Good for you. To this day, he still has no idea that they cast me first. No idea. No idea.
As soon as this video hits the internet,
As soon
he'll
as
find out.
he will know now. But yeah, they offered me that first, and I turned it down. And then whenever it came out, I was bummed because I would have loved to have done it. Because I was actually a snowboarder, so I could have done my own snowboarding stuff. My brother wasn't, so he just had a stunt guy doing all of his stuff. In retrospect, it would have been a much more enjoyable job.
Go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question that's on everybody's mind. Did you ever hook up with anybody on set?
Oh, I will plead the fifth on that one. Thank you very much. The answer is whatever you want it to be, honey.
Anybody else got a question for Jeremy? Go ahead, step on up to the mic.
Just don't get too close to it. When you get too close to it, I can't hear you guys.
Okay. At the time that Kevin was working on Mallrats, did you audition for the role, or did you know Kevin personally and he asked you to come in to do it, or you just knew him through a friend?
I auditioned, actually. Don Phillips, the casting director, cast my brother in Dazed and Confused.
Right.
And he's just a legend in the business. And so I was able to get into the audition. I had really good agents at the time. And just like everybody else in Hollywood at the time, Kevin Smith had done Clerks, and so he had some buzz on him. And so everybody was wanting to be in this movie. Right. And I don't know if you guys have ever had the chance to see like the bonus scenes, the ones that got cut out of the movie, but originally there was the scene in the beginning with Brandy Svenning and I where I'm dressed in like the 17 or whatever, like the old outfit, and I've got the gun and all that, and that was actually our audition scene. So it was strange that it got cut out of the movie, but I'm glad it did. But it was weird because I went in and I right away, something I did in the audition, Kevin just went, dude, can you do that again for me? I was like, yeah, sure. He goes, no, go get Don, and made somebody go get Don Phillips and brought him in. He goes, Jeremy, just do exactly what you did for me again. I was like, I don't know what I did, but sure. And I just did the scene like I'd been rehearsing it, and they cast me on the spot. I got the role right then and there. And basically he said, we've got our TS. We need you to help us find all of our other people. And so I basically just became a part of the casting project.
So Jason didn't show up yet?
What's that?
Jason Lee didn't show up yet until
No,
you were
Jason Lee.
the beginning
Honestly,
character.
the truth about Jason Lee, and it's one of those other things where I got to give Kevin credit for seeing things differently than everybody else, is that when Jason came in, he wasn't really an actor, and he was reading all of his scenes every time. He wasn't off book, and so I couldn't get a beat on the guy. I couldn't tell if he was good or not. I didn't know. I just felt like he was reading every time. And then there were a couple of guys that were auditioning for his role that were really super funny and outgoing and knew and had their lines memorized and all of that stuff. And so I didn't even think that Jason Lee was even in the running. Shows what I know, you know. Kevin just has a way of seeing things in people. It's pretty amazing, you know. I'll tell you, if anything I've learned through the whole process is just to trust him, you know. The next one's gonna be fun because I'm just gonna be like, dude, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
So I know it's been 20 years, but at the time that you were filming, was there anybody on set that you just didn't get along with? I know you probably may have gotten along now, but back then when you were doing, was there any conflict?
I get along with everybody. It takes a lot for me not to get along with you.
Right, there's always conflict on sets, whether it's between actors or crew or just people working.
I didn't not get along with anybody. There was like some people I maybe didn't get very close to, you know. like Jason Lee and Ben Affleck and all of those guys. They seem to be into their own thing and have their own thing going on. But I can't remember there being any conflicts. None. I think
Right.
everybody really got along well.
Yeah. I mean, it's great chemistry that you had with all the different people that were on there.
Thank you. It's going to be fun to get back with everybody. I think everybody's got a sort of a renewed appreciation because, you know, it was one of those things, like I said, when the movie came out, it bombed, you know?
Right.
And so I don't think anybody really, you know, really
Yeah.
thought too much about it for years.
And-
But now it's become such an integral part of all of our lives that
Right.
I think
a
it's
cult
probably
fol-
bonded
It's a
us.
cult following.
Yeah, it does.
Like a lot of movies now. But I know at the end of Mallrats, we know that T.S. and Brandy got together. Are they bringing her back? Is this going to be
Yes.
to both of you, or?
Yep.
Okay. I know you can't really reveal a lot of what maybe you and
I
Kevin
can't
talked
give away
about.
too much because I haven't read the script.
But most of the crew is on board.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
I just know that that we're back and we've got kids. That's about it.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay,
though.
cool. Thanks.
And I got time for one more question, and this is a serious one.
Uh-oh.
Do you still consider the cookie stand in the food court?
Hell yes, it's a part of the food court. Give me a break. If it's in the food court, it's especially a part of the food court. Then it's an autonomous unit for mid-mall snacking. Thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Is that it?
You can see Jeremy and the
Yeah, come
signature
see me,
thing.
guys.
He's got